Today we are talking about the Top K Coding Algorithm Challenge. I just had it with a company that I interviewed for, and I want to relay to you things that I've learned and found. Before I do that though, hit the subscribe button down below if you haven't already. Give me a thumbs up as well if I've earned a like this video. I appreciate everybody that's watching. So a couple things that I learned. The Top K Algorithm Challenge is essentially going through an array, and you're going to have to look at the individual instructions, but typically you're going to return the largest, the most frequent, or the smallest index in that array. K is going to determine the number of items that you return. Again, look at the instructions because that can be a little bit different. Today, for an example, we are going to go through an array and find the top K. K is going to equal 2, so we're going to find the top 2 most frequently repeated indexes of the array. And one thing that you're going to want to do is make sure you use advanced JavaScript ES syntax. Don't use things like for loops, things like that to go ahead and run the iteration, because they're going to give you brownie points if you can use advanced things like map, filter, reduce, advanced methods like that. So I'll stop talking. Let's jump into things so you can see what I'm talking about. So you'll typically get something like this, probably in a HackerRank or LeetCode website. I'm just going to do it in my Visual Studio Code IDE, but you'll get some basic instructions with an example on the side, and it'll allow you to see output of things, but this is pretty much the gist of it. We're essentially going to get the top K products function. It's expecting to return a string array, and the function accepts 2 parameters, the parts number and K. So we got part numbers and we have K. To get things started, the interviewer a lot of times will give you brownie points for how advanced can you code. Like, are you coding in just for loops and vars, or are you using the latest JavaScript ES syntax and let and const and advanced JavaScript functions? So I got let known that I got brownie points for using the reduce function. And so I'm going to show you my example of how I went through this coding challenge. So we're going to do it's not an array, it's going to be an object. And we're going to do let returned object, and we're going to take the part numbers array, we're going to reduce it, and we're going to do a couple things. We are going to create an empty object, and the name of the object we're going to store things in is going to be called all parts. Now, similar with map and filter, the element that you go through each time is going to need a name, and we're going to call that name. Okay, so you can do like filter x, arrow function x, whatever. In our reduce function, similar concept, but because we need to name the empty object, the iteration is going to come second. So now, the final thing we need to do, right, this is our function area, but we also need to define the default object, and that will be an empty object. What we're going to do is we're going to do if the iteration is not in all parts array. So essentially, since we're going to have an object of key value pairs, you can write the object name and then target the specific key you're looking for by putting the name in the square brackets. And then if it's undefined or if it's not there, we have this exclamation point in front of it, which will essentially say, we're saying if this is not in here, if that equals true, then do this. So what we're going to do is then all parts name is going to equal 1, and then we're going to return all parts. Okay. Now, you don't need an else statement here since we are returning out of the if statement. So If it is in the array, then, or in the object, then all parts name plus equals 1. And we're going to return the all parts object. So what's going on here? We will use the names array as the easier example. So this is going to go through the entire array instance by instance, or index by index. So the first index it hits is Alice. Since we have an empty object at the first index, we are going to create Alice with a value of 1. Okay, and then now we're going to go to the next index, which is Bob. So then we're going to now have an object that's going to be Bob with a value of 1. All right, but we're going to hit Alice again, so that is in the all parts object. So what that's going to do is it's going to now do Alice and increase the count by 1, so Alice's value will now equal 2. This is how we can go through the array efficiently and not have to sort it right from the get-go. So we'll print this out here real quick. We need to return the returned object, and let's just rename this so it's not redundant. We'll do R. So now we want to go ahead and console log get top K products, and we're going to insert the names array and the K. And we're going to save it, and now we can do node top K.js, and there we go. This is exactly what I was describing right there. So Alice is 2, Bob is 1, John is 1. Now, you'll probably get brownie points for this, for not for just creating a variable rather than just defining the specific array that we are looking for, because we want dependency injection, right? So let's change that to part numbers and see what prints out there. So we can see we still have an object of key value pairs, but it's out of order. So the next step is going to be, how can we go ahead and sort this and then capture the 2 most frequent, because K is 2, the 2 most frequent items in the array. What we're going to do is we're going to, still inside this function, we're now going to define let sorted equals object.entries, and then we're going to grab the returned object. We're going to do dot sort, and then we're going to do a comma b arrow function, and then we're going to do b index 1 minus a index 1. All right, and then let's go ahead and return sorted so you can see what's actually being printed out there. So what we've done is we've taken object entries and we are going into the return object. We're grabbing hold of the value. So we're saying, okay, we're in the object. We want the object value index of 1, right? Not index of 0. Index of 0 would be this. Index of 1 would be this, since we're using object entries. And we're comparing the value numbers to each other and sorting it that way. So we have the greatest to least being printed out. Now what we need to do is grab just these strings here to return and solve the problem. So most people at this point would do a for loop, and that's totally acceptable. I am going to do something a bit different. So I'm going to do final array equals empty array. We're going to do let I equals 0, and then we're going to do a do while. So we're going to do final array dot push sorted I 0. So we're grabbing the sorted index, and we're grabbing then the first index in that index. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to increment I++. So this is similar to a for loop, just without a lot of that overhead. and then final array. So we're going to do final array.push sorted, grab this index, and then the 0 index of that, push it to the final array. We're going to increase I. And so as long as I remains less than k, which is 2, I starts at 0, I is now 1. So now we go through and we grab this index and the 0 index of that, and we push it to the final array. Now we increase I again. I is 2. Since 2 is not less than 2, we're done, and then we can return the final array. Save it. Bada boom. We have an array of strings that are the 2 most frequent repeating. Awesome. Yeah, like I said, you can use this for the largest, the most frequent, the smallest. You just want to go ahead and tweak the return sorted part of it just to make sure it fits exactly what you're looking for. But this should work with pretty much all of the top K algorithm challenges out there. Hey, I appreciate everyone that's watching again. Hit the subscribe button down below. Give me a thumbs up if I earned it this video. And until next time, guys, take care.